topic. Have you ever heard in your experience telling that the persons, either themselves or the people they know, somebody in their relations or friends, was almost dead, rather declared clinically dead for some time, but were resuscitated. And when they come back to consciousness, they explain, they relate an experience that they had while they were clinically dead. Now, they often tell that they had already left this body, went to another world, generally through a dark tunnel, traveling through a dark tunnel. They were actually in another world, meeting people that they may have known in the past. Now, these are what are called near-death experiences. Similarly, we have people explaining how the operations on their bodies took place while they were totally unconscious. Now, one may ask, how would that person know what was happening to their body when their bodies were completely anesthetized and unconscious? These are called out-of-body experiences. Now, these two are not just hearsay. These two are not just stories or myths. They have now been scientifically documented by several scientists around the world and acknowledged by the scientific fraternity as real. And therefore, these prove the existence of another entity within this body, which continues to live even if this body is no longer living. We will discuss a little bit more about these mysterious experiences in this session today. But let's first say our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjan Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I cannot thank my Gurudev Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON Society, and my spiritual mentors in ISKCON for opening a whole new world of spiritual reality to me. I was continuing in this very mundane material existence, not knowing that I have another much higher eternal dimension. I would request all of you to explore this dimension while there is still time, because this human birth has been awarded to us specifically for this purpose. So today's shloka we are taking up is 2.18. It reads, Antavanta ime deha nitya shoktah sharirinaha anashino aprameyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. Get up and fight, Arjun. So Krishna has given a lot of knowledge up till here. He's going to continue to do that in the further verses. But somewhere here in this verse, Krishna is thinking that I am telling a lot of things about the soul to Arjun, but let me interrupt this with a direct instruction that the outcome of knowledge is action. A very important lesson that Krishna is giving to us here, that mere assimilating of knowledge, be it in any field, is not enough unless it translates to transformation and then action. So Krishna is urging Arjun to fight, to do his duty. As a result of the knowledge being awarded to him, he is being instructed to be transformed internally and to translate this knowledge into proper duty-bound action. Now, what does this verse mean? This verse means Krishna is saying, Arjun, you cannot ever save this body, but you cannot ever destroy this soul, come whatever may. Well, Krishna is telling Arjun, whatever you do, you will never be able to save this body, because by nature, this body or deha is absolutely perishable. You see, when we are born, actually, I remember a song by a very famous singer. It was called Born to Live. I would rather actually like to change the song and say Born to Die, because that is the reality of life in this material world, be it of humans, be it of any other living entity. Every living entity, when born into this world, has an expiry date fixed but not mentioned. Well, since we know that anyone who is born has to die, there is no question that you can actually continue the existence of this body indefinitely. Somebody was asked a question. There was a room full of people and a question was asked, आप में से कौन बूढ़ा है? Which one of you is, whom of you is old and is, sure that he's going to die very soon? Actually, only a couple of middle-aged people and probably the ones who had passed the middle age raised their hands. But the young ones did not, for obvious reasons. However, the person who asked the questions gave a very, very beautiful insight. He said, each one of us is old here, because we start aging and dying bit by bit, slowly, as soon as we are born. You can see the symptoms of aging right from birth. That's a fact. Even if you ask a scientist, they will tell you that the cells, when they start dividing beyond their I would say, refreshing meiotic divisions, a certain type of division of the cells, after the baby is, made into a zygote and then, basically into an embryo, and then the baby is born. As soon as the cells start dividing, the chromosome length, I hope you know about the chromosomes. These are the, entities in our cells which determine our genetic nature, our genetic code. So it is said that the chromosomes start to shorten bit by bit with every division of the cell, which means that we are programmed to die right from our birth. And this is what Krishna is telling to Arjun, that whatever you do, sooner or later, the body is going to perish. So do not carry a heavy heart, Arjun, because the body anyways has to die. Do not lament for it. On the contrary, the soul that I am telling you about, that you really are, is never going to die. It is absolutely indestructible, Arjun. It is also immeasurable. Now, why say immeasurable? Because in the previous verse, we talked about the dimensions of the soul being 1/10,000th of the tip of a hair. That's the size mentioned in the Mundak Upanishad and the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Now, why is Krishna saying that the soul is immeasurable? Actually, soul is so small, and actually it is also it's a spiritual entity. It's not even a material entity. Now, if you take up a scale or a vernier caliper or there are several devices available to measure very, very small things, even in the microscopes. But whatever device we take, there is no way we can, measure the dimensions of the soul, because it's not even a material entity. You cannot keep it under the lens of the microscope and measure its size. It's spiritual, but you can't even see it with these material eyes. How can you measure it? It's beyond all measurement. It's beyond the perception with these eyes. This is what Krishna wants to tell Arjun, that you cannot observe it with these ignorant eyes. These material eyes are actually called the eyes of ignorance, because the material body itself is a body of ignorance. It is what conditions that it is what binds us to this world of ignorance. Now, Krishna is trying to tell Arjun to do your duty without being affected by the fact that you are going to kill the bodies, because the bodies will be killed anyway, and whatever you do, you cannot kill the souls. I know you're going to fire the weapons, but that's not going to kill the souls of whom do you fire the weapons at. Very, very important find. Now, he also, in fact, Srila Prabhupada tells us in the purport that the body is actually dead. It never was living. It's actually not a living entity. It's actually a dead material. And that's the reason why when we, focus too much on the body, our scriptures say that we are just decorating the dead body. Just as if somebody is dead and you're taking the body for, whatever rituals has to be done on the body, burnt or to be buried. But if we spend, say, a package to make up the body nicely, of course, the basic rituals are carried out of cleaning the body and putting on the basic, the clothes and everything. But if you say that you need to properly make up the body with the Shehnaz Hussain makeup, maybe a package of 10,000, it doesn't make sense. Not to anybody, because the body is dead, you would say. What would the makeup do? Similarly, this body that we have around us needs maintenance, yes, but unnecessary focus on the body is referred to as decoration of the dead body in our scriptures. It's as good as that. Now, we are going to understand from Srila Prabhupada that this body is already dead. What actually breathes life into it is the consciousness. Just as the sun sends out the sunlight, in every part of the universe to brighten it, to illuminate it, to energize it. Similarly, if the soul is compared to the sun, the consciousness is the sunlight. It is a consciousness which spreads out from the soul to each and every part of the body to enliven it. And that's where we come back again to that the reference of the near-death experiences and the out-of-body experiences. Reported by many researchers, you can check this out if you want to, like Michael Sebom, by Dr. Kimberly Clark. Well, the list is actually endless. I've given you just 2 names. You may look them up on Google and find for yourself the reports that they have made, the validations that they have made, and prove beyond doubt that there is an entity existing inside us which can leave the body inside these bodies and come out of it and leave the body completely dead. So I'll just relate to you one of the cases, which was reported by Dr. Kimberly Clark. This was about a migrant worker called Maria. She was, she was brought to the hospital absolutely unconscious. She was in a bad state and she was undergoing an operation the very next day. Now, she was resuscitated later. She came back to consciousness and she reported to the doctor that while you were operating on me, I could actually come out of the body and I was floating over my body and seeing as the operation was taking place. And I was watching everything. I was hearing you. Now, this Maria, she starts on, she continues to say that I also went out of the hospital, out of the window, and I climbed up the outer wall of the hospital and I saw a tennis shoe of so and so color lodged on the corner of a window. And I also went up to the terrace. Then she described the things on the terrace. Now, doctors were, mildly amused initially, saying that she must be making this up, But this just, they wanted to humor her, and they actually sent out some workers to kind of validate the facts she was relating. And they really tried hard to find the tennis shoe peering from inside the windows, but from inside the hospital, even from the windows, it was very difficult to locate that shoe, but it was eventually located. Now, only somebody who was traveling up through the outer wall of the hospital could have seen it as clearly as Maria did. The things that she mentioned in the hospital were also found there, even though the hospital terrace was always locked, and not even the doctors knew what was there up there, So not just this, there were so many other incidents reported by Dr. Clark and also by Michael Sabom and various other near-death experiencers or experienced workers, validators, who have proved beyond doubt that the soul does exist and it comes out of the body. If the body is unconscious, the soul can see and hear through the subtle senses. In fact, there have been some cases of near-death experiences in which a person who was blind from birth had never actually experienced the experience of sight, was able to see when coming out of the body in the outer body experience, and that could definitely never have been explained by any other explanation but this. Now these are hair-raising, very mystical experiences which, if you care to look up, are going to open your eyes to this fact that we are really not the body, we are the soul. I'm not going any further into more experiences, very interesting as much as they are, but I would relate to you a couple of more incidences. One scientist actually tried to find out who is it exactly inside the body who gives instructions to the brain to carry out certain jobs. For instance, he took a subject in which he first asked the subject to raise his hand. So the subject raised his hand like this, and then he asked him to lower it back down. So that was done as, the actions that we do very normally in our day-to-day lives, nothing much to think about. But then what he did was he asked the subject to keep absolutely still, do nothing, make no movement, make no, will or order or instruction to the muscles. He artificially, basically stimulated a part of the brain which is responsible for carrying out the motor action, the instructions. So the stimulus when made to the brain, what happened was that the subject automatically raised the hand. He was surprised himself. When asked whether he had raised the hand, he said, "No, I have not raised the hand. You have raised my hand." Now this was very interesting. Now when the stimulus was removed, the hand was automatically lowered down. So in the second case, the stimulus was being given by the electrical impulse from outside. But in the first case, who is it that gave the instruction? Well, we might say the brain did. Well, the brain doesn't give instructions to itself. There are so many scientific experiments which have been conducted as of now. In some cases, subjects, people who were known to have absolutely no brain inside, no gray matter, no cerebral cortex inside the cranium, were seen to function absolutely normally. Now, who could believe that? A person without a brain functioning, doing everything, talking, very normally. So what is it inside that person, if not the brain? Who is it who's actually carrying all this out? All this makes us think deeply, as do our dreams. The dreams are actually for real, just like we are for real. Dreams are a world created by our subtle body, by our mind. When this body, outer body, is sleeping, it is unconscious. The mind, along with the subtle body, the rest of the subtle body, that is intelligence and ego, they all travel out of this body, the gross body, and they create a world of their own, taking up the information that they had grasped maybe during the day or maybe some time back. You might be surprised about what all you see in your dreams. But all these things you have sometimes seen in either this life or in your past lives. And that is what comes back to you, because everything is stored in the mind. Mind is a repository of all the past incidents and desires, although we do not remember them actively, consciously. Somebody said the mind is a big iceberg. What is visible to us, what is known to us as the conscious mind, is only the tip of the iceberg. The subconscious mind is the big part which is hidden beneath the ocean. Well, very, very mystical. But all these scientific experiments will prove to us that the soul does exist. But then, of course, the soul does exist. What then? What is the instruction that Krishna is saying? Because you are the soul and not really the body, just stop lamenting, just stop giving unnecessary attention. Necessary attention, of course, we must give to the body for our maintenance, but stop giving unnecessary attention to your bodies and the bodies of others. Focus more on the soul, Arjun, because that's really you. More later. Thank you. Till then, chant Hare Krishna and be